to another restoration of all things message in the spirit and power of Eliyahu to prepare the way for Yahushua's second coming. What is our inheritance? What have we been entrusted with? The answer will be what is able to build us up. Our inheritance in the scriptures is categorized in 3 levels. We have an inheritance. We have a reward. 2, there is a place. There is an allotted inheritance we all will receive according to our works. And 3, those that are priests, those that are walking as priests and kings in the flesh, submitting the flesh, walking in covenant status, will receive Messiah as their inheritance. Meaning this is the bride. These are those who go beyond and above, who go wherever the Messiah tells them to go. They are set apart unto obedience purely out of love for Messiah. Now we're going to break down what is able to build you up and give you this inheritance. Before we start breaking this passage down, I want to inform you that Shaul went to Mount Sinai after the scales came off for 3 years. So he was in Mount Sinai for 3 years, and Messiah Yahushua taught him personally without any distractions. And this was all done with favor. And by favor he was delivered, and we were delivered too. He was delivered from the covenant of death, and so were we. Let us continue. Deuteronomy 33 verse 2. And Moshe said, Yahuwah came from Sinai and rose from Seir unto them, and he shined from Mount Paran, and came with 10,000 of his set apart ones, sanctified at his right hand a law of fire for them. This law of fire signifies devotion, pure devotion. Father has pure devotion for us, and we're supposed to have pure devotion for him, just like the book of James 1:27 speaks of. This is part of the Great Commission language. Verse 3, indeed, he loves the peoples. All his set apart ones are in your hand, and they sat down at your feet, everyone receiving your words. Who is Moshe speaking about? Moshe is speaking about the Messiah, the one who came in Yahuwah's name in the new covenant writings. This is him who he's speaking of. Verse 4, Moshe commanded us a Torah, an inheritance of the congregation of Yaakov. Beloved, the followers of the way in Yahuwah who have come out of Babylon are the congregation of Jacob, Yaakov, in Messiah. The law of Moses is called the inheritance of the congregation of Jacob. Today, we are the tabernacle of David that was fallen and built up as a spiritual house with living stones, with living sacrifices. And this is, beloved, the congregation of Jacob in Messiah today. If you desire to have an inheritance with scriptural Yasharal, with scriptural Israel, you must abide by the teachings of the Torah, the doctrine that Messiah taught and sent his disciples to do the Great Commission, to be a light to the non-covenant people. The sad truth is that many of us made a confession of faith, trusting that the Messiah's blood atoned for us. And he did pay for that death penalty position, the covenant of death that we did. But we were never taught the covenant. We were never taught the conditions. We were never taught to walk exactly as he walked. By favor, we were delivered from the covenant of death without any conditions or obligations. This was unmerited loving kindness, not deserved. We were not worthy. Praise Yahuwah. But now, through the blood in Messiah, you are the seed of Abraham. And now, all the promises made to Abraham will come to pass if you keep the condition. And the condition is that you keep the way of Yahuwah, according to Genesis 18 verse 19. Let me give you clarity. We were saved, we were delivered from the penalty of death by his great favor before we met Messiah. After we meet Messiah, We are being delivered. We are being saved. We are being sanctified. And if we receive sanctification after our justification, when we make our confession of faith, belief, and trust, then we will be delivered. We will be saved from the new world order that he will destroy at his coming. In Acts chapter 7, Stephen, before he was stoned, he tells us this is he, Moshe, who was in the assembly in the wilderness with the messenger of the covenant, Yahushua, who spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai with our fathers, who received the living words to give unto us, unto whom our fathers would not become obedient, but rejected him, and turned back in their hearts to Egypt, the world. Today, the same can be said. In the new covenant writings in Acts, Stephen is telling us that we received the Torah just like ancient Israel. It is also confirmed in Hebrews 4:1-2 that ancient Israel received the good news of the covenant just like us, but they were disobedient and they lacked emunah, faith, trust, and belief. Stephen is also telling us that Moses did write about the Messiah. It was him who they rejected. It was the rock that they rejected. It was the rock that also 1 Corinthians 10 speaks of. 1 Corinthians 10, verse 3-5. They, ancient Israel, all ate the same spiritual food and all drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed, and that rock was Messiah. However, with most of them, Elohim was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness, and these became examples for us. Beloved, we are entering into another wilderness, but this time it's a spiritual wilderness of sin, of violence and death, a famine of the word and a famine of food, of sun-blistering heat. Beloved, we are there already. This year was hot. Next year will be much hotter. We are not receiving sufficient water worldwide to keep us afloat. Get your houses in order. In this message, we will talk about the three levels of the Torah. We have the Idut, the Hokim, and the Mishpatim. These are the laws of the Torah, and they're broken in three. The laymen, the servants, and the nation of Yasharal, they do 60% of the commandments. The elders, the sons of Zadok, the Kohanim, they have other commandments besides the Mishpatim that they do. And last, the Idut, those commandments are given to the kings, the prophets, and the high priest, the Kohen HaGadol. Now, we in Messiah are kings and priests, and it is our duty, our obligation to find out how to put these commandments into application in the order of Melchizedek. And this is done out of pure love for Yahuwah, to go beyond and above daily, because we love him. And if you love him, then you will keep his commandments. In Matthew chapter 13, verse 19, Yahushua tells us that when anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away that which has been sown in his heart. Now, the three levels of the Torah that I'm speaking here are the three levels of your allotted inheritance that are going to be operating in the millennial kingdom. And what was sown on the good ground, this is he who hears the word and understands it, who truly bears fruit and brings forth. And some 100 times as much, and some 60, and some 30. This is your understanding, your wisdom, your intelligence for guarding the Torah with your life. Beloved, those who keep the least of the commandments and teach others to do the least will live with the Gentiles in the nations in the millennial kingdom. That will be your allotted inheritance. Those that have done less than 30% of the commandments will be in outer darkness. Those that do the 30% of the commandments will live in the nation within the borders of Yasharel, from the Nile to the Euphrates. Those that keep 60% of the commandments will live in Jerusalem, and that will be their allotted inheritance. And those that go beyond and above, that do everything without being told to do it, without shame, are doing 100% of the commandments as kings and priests under Messiah. And they will live in the Beit HaMikdash, the temple. And beloved, who lives in the temple? It will be the bride and the groom. So beloved, the time is now, as Yeshayahu tells us in chapter 2 verse 2 and 3, that it shall happen in the latter days. These are the latter days, beloved, that the mountain of Yahuwah's house, his sovereignty, his government and authority shall be established on the top of mountains and shall be raised above the hills, above all the false doctrines and the new world orders, the beast system, and all the nations shall flow to it. Many people shall go and say, come, let us go to the mountain of Yahuwah, to the house of the Eloah of Jacob, and he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the Torah, and the word of Yahuwah from Jerusalem. Who are those that are set apart? These are set apart by favor. In Galatians 5:16, Shaul tells us, but I say, walk in the Ruach, and you will not carry out the desire of the flesh. Be not carnal, be not dramatic, be mature in your walk.